Okay, we're going to start in a second. Anybody who would like to speak today during any of the agenda items or during our portion that is reserved for public comment matters by the public, please fill out a card so we can have those. I know there's one agenda item where I'm expecting some conversation, so please fill out your cards so that we can have those on record. And I'm now going to call the meeting to order. This is the Solid Waste Authority Board regular meeting, October 13th, 2021. And may I have a roll call?
Vice Mayor Weinroth,
I am here.
Commissioner Weiss,
Here.
Commissioner Sacks. Here. Mayor Kerner,
Here.
Commissioner Marino,
Here.
Commissioner McKinley, Commissioner Bernard,
I'm by phone.
Commissioner
Here.
Bernard, we have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Mr. Palowitz, would you please do the honors?
Sure. Dear God, we gather here today intent on doing good work. We seek to represent fairly and well those who have given us this task. May our efforts be blessed with insight, guided by understanding and wisdom. We seek to serve with respect for all. Give us strength to act honestly and well in all matters before us. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Palowitz. As you heard, Commissioner McKinley is on the line. She is requesting to attend today's meeting by telephone due to extenuating circumstances. According to the authority's board rule of governance, there may be times when a member is physically unable to attend Solid Waste Authority board meetings, and if a majority of the members of the Solid Waste Board present determine that extraordinary circumstances exist to justify the absence of the member from a meeting, the Solid Waste Board may allow, in its good judgment, the absent member to participate. I have a motion from Vice Chair Weiss to allow Commissioner McKinley to attend. I have a second by Mayor Kerner. All in favor? All opposed? I see that as approved by a 6-0 vote. Commissioner McKinley, you're invited to attend. Thank you for dialing in. Okay. We're going to move on to the next item, which is the agenda. Do we have any additions or deletions?
We have no additions or deletions, but we have provided you a letter from High Point Agribedding that's on the dais right now. It was emailed to you late, and that's related to item 8A.
Very good. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda? Vice Chair Weiss has moved to approval. I have Mayor Kerner seconding it. All in favor? All opposed? We'll show that approved 7-0. Okay, now we have the minutes for the August 25th meeting. Do I have a motion to approve? Motion to approve by Vice Chair Weiss, second by Commissioner Sacks. All in favor? All opposed? Show that as approved 7-0. Okay, now we have the minutes of the Citizens Advisory Committee of October 6, 2021, and the Small Business Advisory Committee, August 10th, 2021. I need a motion to receive and file. Motion by Vice Chair Weiss, second by Mayor Kerner. All in favor? All opposed? That is approved 7-0. Moving right along. We are now on the consent agenda. Do we have any comment cards on the consent agenda? No comment cards. Anybody on the dais want to have any comments about the consent agenda? I'm looking for a motion to approve. Moved by Vice Chair Weiss, second by Commissioner Sacks. All in favor? All opposed? We'll show that as approved 7-0. Okay, time for matters by the public. Do we have anything for matters by the public, or is that just for the agenda item?
That card is under matters by the public.
Okay, very good. Then it's your time, and call the...
Thank you for having me. Arthur Morgan, Wellington. I have a question about the way our landfills might be compared to others, say in New Jersey or New York, regarding environmental safety. So let me give a comparison and then my question. So landfills create methane by the breakdown of plant food waste and other science. The methane's is worse than a greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide, so we burn it through flaring. But when you do that, it creates like an invisible fire. Now, in these New York, New Jersey landfills, they burn the methane straight up into the air, 30 feet of invisible fire that birds are flying into, becoming scorched, landing in these New Jersey, New York landfills. So my question is, are we burning the methane here in our Class 1 or Class 3 landfills in a manner that might be harming the birds? Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Mr. Palowitz, can you help in answering the question that we just proposed?
We're going to do this as a team. So first, I'm going to say, yes, we adhere to all environmental requirements in terms of the way we handle methane. But I'm going to have Romana Carey answer the question as it relates to how we deal with landfill gas at our landfill. And then I'm going to have Mary Beth Morrison comment on impacts on the birds, because we do monitor the bird populations on this site, and we have since it started.
Thank you, Mr. Palowitz.
Yeah, good morning, members of the board. Yes, we do collect the landfill gas from the landfill, and what's different with the authority is we beneficially use it. As you know, the biosolids facility is partially powered by landfill gas, methane from the landfill gas. We remove the moisture, and we beneficially use the methane. And in the event, they're not taking the landfill gas for drying the biosolids, very little is flared.
Ms. Morrison?
Good morning. I'm Mary Beth Morrison, the Director of Environmental Programs. I've worked here at the Authority for 31 years, and my original job was biologist, and we've done extensive monitoring on the wading bird population that resides here at this site. And to my knowledge, we have never had an incident of birds being injured by the flare. Our team, whether it's landfill ops or different operations, will contact environmental programs if a bird's been injured. And if they have, we take them to Bush Wildlife. But as far as being injured by the flare, we've never had that on record.
Very good. We're not going to have a debate on this. Okay, very good. Thank you very much, Mr. Palowitz, for the information, and I'm sure if there's more of an inquiry, feel free to put it in writing or else contact staff directly. Thank you. All right, we're going to move on now to old business, and this is an item that we had discussed at our last meeting, and it was a request by High Point Agro Bedding, Florida LLC, for deferral of their lease fees. There was some discussion. High Point was not in attendance, so this was deferred so we could have a fuller discussion. Mr. Palowitz, do you want to say anything on this?
Yeah, I'll just do the intro. It's my understanding that Paul Cross, who is a principal with High Point, is on the phone. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Romana Carey for a presentation.
Okay.
Yes, this is an item from the August meeting. As the board knows, we leased a 5.3 acre parcel to Horizon back in 2019 and gave them 18 months to get all their permits to construct a equestrian waste processing facility. And the authority has spent $481,000 making improvements to the site and adjacent intersection on Pike and 7th Place North. So as of today, High Point is still in the process of obtaining permits. They made their first lease payment of $74,600 last December. And in August, they've asked the board to defer the lease payment that's due in December this year for 2 years or until the end of the term, which is 2040. So based on the discussions we had at the August meeting, staff is listing these three options here that you may see on your screen here. Option one is to defer the lease payment to, December 2023. Option two is to defer the lease payment to end of the lease term, which is 2040. And option three is to deny High Point's request. So for options 1 and 2, High Point will continue to pay the taxes as in their original lease agreement. And we also added a couple of conditions of approval based on the discussions we had at the August meeting. The first condition is that they submit all their permit applications to the agencies by 18th of December this year, which is basically the due date for the lease payment, with the expectation that they would get all the permits in about 3 months' time or by March of 2022. And the second condition we've added here is to have a 2 to 4% finance fee for the deferred lease amount. And staff doesn't have any direction. We're seeking board direction here.
Mr. Carey, may I ask you a question? You said the $481,000 has been committed by the Solid Waste Authority already?
That's money already spent.
Okay. And what is the total value of this contract? What are they going to have to invest in this location to bring it up to the point at which they're going to be able to process the bedding?
Their letter as of this morning, this letter was received this morning, and they're saying, it's going to cost them $12 million.
So, again, just to clarify, we're talking about a $12 million contract. The county or the Solid Waste Authority has already committed $481,000, and we're being asked today to defer a $74,000 payment.
Correct. The $12 million is their investment on the project, and for us, it's a 20-year term, and each year it's $74,600 escalated based on what's in the lease here.
All right, well, I'm going to let my colleagues discuss this. I have nobody who's buzzed in yet, but I personally have some misgivings about a company that is making such a commitment to be asking for a deferral on such basically a small amount of money. So I'm going to have to be convinced that this is a necessity. So I'm looking for my colleagues, any discussion or debate or a motion.
I apologize if I'm coming in at the incorrect time, but Mr. Coulter should be.
I'm sorry. We will allow you to have 3 minutes or as much time as you need to make a presentation as to why we should allow for this deferral of the payment.
Thank you.
Would you please identify yourself for the record?
This is Paul Cross, CEO and President of High Point Florida LLC.
Okay, please make your presentation, and we're going to give you approximately 3 minutes. If you need a little bit more, we'll give you extra time.
Very good.
Mr. Weinhoff?
Yes, Commissioner McKinley.
Sorry, I sent you my little hand raise emoji. I guess you didn't see it. I just wanted to let you know I do have comments on this item, but I wanted to let them make their presentation first.
Very good, Commissioner, and I didn't notice that, but I will have you recognized as soon as they make the presentation. Thank you. Okay, please make your presentation.
And Mr. Chip Coulter is there in person, who is actually going to read the documentation, and I'm here to answer any questions after.
Mr. Coulter, I'll ask you to fill out a card before you speak. All right, so Paul, it's all on your shoulders now. You're recognized.
Well, as I was going to say, I'm waiting. Let's wait for Mr. Chip Coulter to sign the documentation card, and he can read it out, which I think would be better.
Okay, we're having a little bit of a communication. He's deferred to you. He said
okay,
you should
fine,
go ahead.
No problem at all. Well, if you're okay, then I'm going to just read my comments, and then we can have discussion. So we did send the information at the meeting in response to the documentation of this business point 8, the deferral of the lease. We wanted to say that Palm Beach County produces over 200,000 tons of stored residual waste yearly, 100,000 coming from the village. This High Point facility is going to be a state-of-the-art facility that will produce and effectively recycle 60,000 tons of the stored residual waste from the horse community and become an integral part of the solution to solve manure in Palm Beach County. We are building this facility to reduce environmental pollutants caused by inadequate dumping. And the building and the equipment, which has been approved by the county, was specifically designed with the community in effect, that the process carried out will be in an enclosed building under negative air pressure, reducing emission, noise, and odor. And so we have completely redesigned, confirmed the design for that. Unfortunately, the permitting process, the engineering, and the budgeting for the facility has taken longer than expected, which is one of the reasons we are asking for the deferral, which I will answer the point of a $12 million in one moment. In the original lease agreement, the first start date for lease payments was not due until all permits were in place. Permitting was anticipated to be completed at 18 months, which was named the second start date. Unfortunately, I don't think High Point Horizon SWA ever anticipated COVID, and that it would take longer than 18 months for permitting to be completed. In the meantime, we did pay December 2020 the lease payment through High Point, but even though we had not even received site plan approval, we did do that, which did not occur until May 2021. The unbudgeted expense, unfortunately, did cause a further delay in engineering documentation, which is called pre-permit financing that we had. Post-permit financing is the $12 million project. Due to time, I'll be very quick here. There are other issues that have caused delays. The permit was delayed due to staff working from home from our side and from Palm Beach County. We were not sure if we could even have access to the property due to a bridge design that was not to code. We do thank the SWA for solving that problem mid-2021, where a new road has been built for not just us, but also for other leased parcels on the property. We also needed to make sure that we had all of the 59,000 tons that we needed to come to us, and that has taken us a while to put into an agreement, which we are now doing. And as you know, the U.S. Sugar has stopped taking the product, and we're working with them to create a project to validate the soil amendment portion of our process to promote sugarcane growth, and we also did add a letter of support from them.
Thank you, Mr.
In my
Mikowski.
last point that I'd just like to make, that we are pleased that we've resolved the above issues, and Paul Mikowski, who is our project manager and post-permit project financing partner, is moving forward again, and that is why we are now requesting this deferral of $74,600 to be moved to December 2023 as per option 2.
Thank you for your presentation.
That is due to we are still not at post-permit financing, and so we're asking for that period of time until we have all of our permits in place for the project to be brought to fruition.
Okay, thank you. That's enough. We've heard pretty much the presentation. Commissioner McKinley, you are recognized.
Thank you, Commissioner Chairman Weinroth, my apologies. Different time zone here. Can you hear me? I have you on speaker.
Yes, we can hear you very well.
Okay. A couple of things on this. I reluctantly want to support, I'm looking in our documentation. I think ours is a little bit different today for the agenda items than what was presented in Paul's letter. I am reluctantly asking the board today to support option 1, which would extend this visa payment to December 18th of 2023. I appreciate the very late submission of the letter that he wrote, and got up early this morning and read that. We didn't have any effects from our staff working from home and permitting process. I do understand that he may have. I do understand the issues that they would have had, seeing as Canadian border travel is just now being authorized by the federal government. So that is a legitimate concern. And some of the other things, the letter of support that came from U.S. Sugar was simply supporting the location of the project outside of the EAA. I'm working with them today to talk about the validating the soil amendment portion of their process with them to promote sugarcane growth. I reached out to Eric Edwards, and he's trying to get me some information on that. But aside from all of that, that's not really the issue at hand. The issue at hand, Mr. Chairman, and to my colleagues, is the financing for this facility is dependent upon those permits being approved and in hand. That is where Mr. Cross will get his financing for the remainder of the project. So, you know, I mean, the unease about being able to afford to do the rest of the project, I feel pretty confident in reading the letters he submitted today that financing will be in place once the permits are in place. So, reluctantly, I'm asking that we approve a motion for option one. That would be the lease payment of $74,600 for 2021 to be paid on or before December 18th, 2023. High Point will pay all taxes for 2021. Lease payments for the remainder of the term and other terms and conditions will remain unchanged. I'd like to add to that motion the condition of approval is granted contingent on High Point submitting the engineering plans and permit applications. I'm sorry, let me change that. The approval the approval is contingent on High Point obtaining all permits by March 2022. That is a bit different than the staff recommendation of condition of approval. I don't want to put the December 18th date in there. I don't care when they get turned in. I want them obtained and approved by March of 2022. That's the most important thing. And
All right.
lastly, I heard Vice Chairman Weiss's concerns at the last meeting and would also add a condition of approval that a 2% finance charge per year for the deferred lease payment be added to that December 18th, 2023 lease payment.
All right,
That was
so,
a mouthful of a motion, but that is my motion.
okay, so we have a very detailed motion. Does anybody wish to second? I have a second by Commissioner Bernard. We can have some discussion. Okay, I think Commissioner Bernard, you're up first.
Mr. Chair, I was just going to second the motion.
Okay, very good. This is making it very difficult here. Okay, Mayor Kerner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'm inclined to support Commissioner McKinley's motion. She is essentially our resident expert on many of these issues, but I would just like some clarification from the applicant, if possible, regarding the status of the submission of the permits. I may have missed that, and if so, I apologize, but where are we? I guess the question I'd like to have answered is there a holdup in the submission of the permits? Are all the permits submitted to the best of your ability to explain that to us, or is there a delay in the submission of the permits?
Did you hear the
Was
question?
that request to me?
Yes.
I apologize. We have the site plan permit approved, and we are taking, now that the border is open, we are taking our whole team to West Palm Beach in November to meet with CSS Build and other, Greg Fagan and other gentlemen in West Palm Beach to confirm the requirements for the final site drawings to be submitted, and that is scheduled for early November,
Does that
which
answer
will
your
then
question,
complete
Mayor?
all of the requirements for the final permitting to be submitted with then the zoning and planning and the Palm Beach County requirements from there.
Thank you, sir, for your comments. And Mr. Chair, it essentially does. I mean, at the end of the day, we have to look at it in context. And I recall that there were not any other applicants that bid on the lease for this property. It also is intended to resolve, or at least in part, a larger ecological environmental issue that's present in District 6 and throughout the county in general. And so I don't think we ever endeavored to be punitive with the folks that we work with, our constituents. So in that regard, I'm happy to support Commissioner McKinley's motion.
Thank you, Mayor. Commissioner Weiss, Vice Chair Weiss.
Thank you. I want to circle back to what Mayor Kerner was asking. So, Mr. Cross, have you submitted the any permit applications at this point?
We have submitted all permits required for the site plan to be approved, which was approved in May 2021, and we will be taking our visit to all stakeholders in November so that we can confirm the specifications and the detailed drawings that will need to go and be permitted to PBC code for permitting and contractors. I'm sorry.
All right, so I think, to me, it sounds like your site plan has been approved, which is not that's an approval, but no permit applications have been made.
The final drawings for the building permit have not been submitted. That is what is being submitted after our planned trip to West Palm Beach, now open in November, which is next month.
Mr. Pelowitz, you want to interject?
I don't want to interject, but necessarily, but I think that the timetable is somewhat optimistic. I guess the question I would have is, has the design been initiated for the construction of the facility itself? What is the status of the design in terms of the foundation, the building, and everything that goes into that to obtain a building permit? Right now, they have site plan approval, but is there an engineer that's been signed on to do it? What is the progress of the design, and what is the potential for that design work to even be completed by March? I mean, we do this work all the time. Romana Carey's our chief engineer, and we understand the time it takes to go from concept to design and getting that on paper to the point where it can actually be submitted for a building permit. That's my concern as it relates to the status of the design, and that's something I think this board should know before you make a decision.
Can you please clarify that information?
Yes, I can. We have all of the design of the building, external and internal, have been designed. We have completed all of our mass flow documentation, the program, the facility. I'm on the West Coast. The facility is ready to be built. What is not completed is the actual completed foundation drawings to go for the building permit and other documentation that is required. That will be through Paul Mikowski, our project manager, who will be down in November to meet with Greg Blount of CSS Build and of Greg Fagan. And our internal team, RAM, has already completed their drawings at a base level so that between the two groups, they can complete the right specified drawings to go to permitting.
So you feel that you can meet the March...
We intend to have this by December the 15th.
You're committing that you're going to have this completed by March 22?
We cannot, as long as the permitting process with Palm Beach County, which I have no control over, that date is reasonable to High Point.
So, I just want to go back. So the engineer drawings are done?
Our internal engineering drawings are done, and I will have to defer that to Paul Mikowski, who is specifically coming down to see what needs to be completed and what has been completed with the drawings that are already done, which is all of the building, all of the design, all of the internal equipment, and has fitted specifically to the site plan that has been approved. So the next step is to submit the drawings for the building permit, which will happen after our visit in November. I hope that I'm trying to be clear, and it's a little quiet on the phone, so I hope you can hear okay.
We can hear you just fine, but I think, like Mr. Pelowitz said, that's an awfully ambitious target, and I'm not sure that you're really going to be able to hit that, but I'm going to let my colleagues continue the conversation. You do understand the motion before us includes a 2% finance charge. Is that going to be agreeable to you?
we are agreeable to that.
You can't get.
Okay, very good. Commissioner Weiss, do you have anything else?
No, so my understanding then, if the board were to move forward on this, you would make a payment then in December of 2022?
23.
No, you'd have next year's
That's
payment.
option one, right?
You're giving them a 2-year deferral.
Ms. Pelowitz, you want to explain option one?
They would be making a payment, they would be making the December 2022 payment in December 22, and in December of 2023, they would essentially be making a double payment.
Okay, that's what I wanted to clarify. And that is what you're prepared to do? Mr., what was his name?
Cross.
Cross.
That is correct to option one.
I have no further questions.
Thank you. Commissioner Marino, you're recognized.
Thank you. I'm going to play devil's advocate for a moment. I believe you said that there was no competition when this was first bid. Is that correct?
Yes, they were the only respondent to the RFP.
Okay, so if for some chance we decided to not approve and we went with option 3, which is the denial of the request, is there any competition in the industry now?
We attended a meeting back in August. I do believe there is potential competition here from Compost USA, who was present at the meeting. I think that answers the question. But they were the only respondent to the RFP to lease this property for the purpose of developing an equestrian waste facility.
So then if we deny their request, they're in default, and does this now go out again?
Well, they're not in default.
What would the process be?
They're not in default unless they don't make the payment. So I guess the question is, for me, is does this board's denial of their request impede the project to the point where they're not going to be able to complete it? I guess that's my question. The authority has expended a significant amount of money up front in order to get this facility up and running, not now, not 18 months from now, but last year. We put in the improvements, we committed to do the driveway, and all the improvements necessary to make this code compliant so that they could actually build the facility. The deferral of the money, it's not a lot of money from the standpoint of an organization with a $300+ million budget, but we do have a lease agreement, and my larger concern continues to be that related to financing. And so now we've divided financing into two pieces. One is the permitting piece, and the other is the post-permitting piece. And, you know, that is my overriding concern, is ultimately, do they have a commitment to finance the $12 million facility from an entity? Can they provide a letter from a bonding company indicating an intent to issue a performance and payment bond for the construction that's going to take place on our property? And if we defer this payment and we get down the road, I mean, I think there is a reasonable, I think you have to consider from a business standpoint the potential that the ultimate payment in 2023 may not be made. I mean, that's my concern. So we're not, I don't want to be in the position of the authority providing them with a loan. I don't believe they're going to make a commitment to to make that payment in the event that they were to default, to actually make that payment to cover our carrying costs during this time. Yeah, I'm not totally opposed to awarding it. I just think we all need to go in with our eyes open and understand that you know, I guess the final question I have on the issue of the permits is, has an engineer, a professional engineer in the state of Florida, who's certified and licensed in the state of Florida, develop the drawings and the plans that need to be submitted in order to obtain the building permit? Because Mr. Cross stated that he's got his folks in Canada working on it, but in order to get the building, my understanding is, in order to get the building permit, they're going to have to submit plans that are signed and sealed by an engineer who's licensed in the state of Florida.
Mr. Kroc, do you want to respond?
Greg Fagan, who will be, I shouldn't probably use a name specific, but Yeah, the answer to your question is yes. With the trip, visit, and the business relationships we have in West Palm Beach that are Florida authorized, we will be able to take the drawings and make them to code to be signed, sealed, and submitted by local engineers.
Mr. Pelowitz, remind me the situation with the guarantee on this. I seem to recall that there was a situation where there was a difference in who was going to stand in as the guarantor on this contract. Is there a guarantor right now?
There is a guarantor. His name is Bob Rogers. There was some discussion with Mr. Cross back in the spring about a desire to change the guarantor, but ultimately that did not happen, and they executed the assignment agreement that the board approved back in February. So just going back, they received zoning approval last December. They requested and were granted an assignment of the lease from Horizon 880 to High Point. There was a delay of multiple months in terms of getting that assignment signed off on. By their end, we had approved it, getting it signed off on their end because they had requested through Mr. Carey to change the guarantor. We indicated to them they needed to come to the board to do that. Ultimately, they did not, and Mr. Rogers, it's my understanding, remains the guarantor on the project to this date. That's the history of that. So the guarantor is the same. Again, I don't want to belabor the point, but I'm going to come back to the same issue, which is when they submitted their proposal, they had a letter from a financial institution that indicated that this was a viable project and that they would be inclined to finance the project. My question right now continues to be the value of deferring $74,000 compared to the cost of construction, which is in excess, based on their estimate, it's just $12 million and likely, potentially could be higher. That's my final concern. I think we just need to recognize that there is a potential that the authority may not get paid.
And Mr. Kroc, I think you understand our hesitancy based upon what is really a very small amount of money compared to what your commitment is on this contract, and our concern that this is, as our executive director pointed out, potentially a harbinger of some bad times coming forward. What could you say to allay our concerns?
I think, as I have stated, the difference between we have spent, as per everybody, hundreds of thousands of dollars to make sure that we are in the right place to solve a problem for Palm Beach County, for the equestrian industry. It is innovative, and it has taken us longer to get to the permit approval stage, which is when project financing is available to us and will be made available to us, as we are waiting for the meeting to come down in November so that we can make sure that we have a professional plan so that these concerns are abated. And that is what our intent is in November.
Thank you. Vice Chair Weiss?
Thank you. Mr. Cross, so you're saying that you expect you would be getting financing then post-permit, which sometime early or late spring next year. Is that correct?
Correct.
So is there any reason why we should extend this to 2023? Is there any reason why we shouldn't just do it for 6 months or 12 months?
Well, it actually is, if I am correct, 12 months, and then we pay a double payment in 2023.
But if you're getting your financing next year, is there any reason why you couldn't make the double payment at the end of next year?
We are going with the board's option one. Is all I can. We had option 1 was available to us. We felt that that was fair and could work and will work for us, and therefore that is what we have requested.
Mr. Kroc, I think that the vice chair is asking you that if he amended the motion that's been put on the table by Commissioner McKinley to change option 1 to a payment due on December 22, so you'd have your double payment in 22, would that be acceptable to you?
I don't see why that would not be acceptable to us. However, we were just simply going with option 1 because it was available to us. If that is something that must be done for the approval, we can. That would be to the board.
I will correct you. It's not available to you, it's available to us. We are going to make a decision as a body to whether we are going to allow you to even have any options. So I think you've misinterpreted what is before us today. And so, Commissioner Weiss, do you want to amend the motion that Commissioner McKinley has put on the table?
Mr. Chairman?
Would that be a substitute, Commissioner McKinley, or an amendment?
No, I would just like to point out that my motion is the language in the motion is that payment will be paid on or before. There's nothing that would prohibit the applicant from paying that fee before December 18th of 2023. So if he had the ability to pay that next year, he could pay that next year.
Understood. Commissioner...
We're in agreement with that.
Vice Chair Weiss, do you want to...
Honestly, I really don't even want to support this.
Okay, all right.
But I wanted to see if in fact that, if it's based on, purely just based on the post-financing, permit financing, why it couldn't be paid off as soon as that financing is put in place, and why we would carry it for further.
And it can.
Okay. Commissioner Marino, you're recognized.
Thank you. We are all having a very difficult time with this. But basically, my question is, Mr. Makowski is from Canada, is that correct?
We have
That is
Mr.
correct.
Yeah.
Okay. And he is your project manager, and he is the finance partner?
That is correct.
Okay. So basically, you're asking, the engineering has taken now 6 months since your May approvals, and I don't understand why the meeting isn't until November, knowing that you've gotten your your site plan approval in May, and not having the engineering drawings certified by a Florida engineer yet is an issue for me. I don't understand if travel is already in place, why you're waiting till November to get this team together. That's another month, and you knew that we were having this discussion today, so I'm a little, it leaves me with a little bit of a question, but I'm not sure I can support not having a time certain for the payment. On or before does not float my boat at all. So I would like to see a substitute motion with a time certain for the payment if we are going to move forward with this.
I'm just going to point out that there is a time certain on this, but it would be 23. You can certainly substitute a motion to make it 22.
Would the maker of the motion
Yeah.
accept a substitution of a time frame for it?
I think you need to, we need to remember that the payment would be on or before December 18th, 2023, but I've also added one of the staff recommendations for the 2% finance charge per year that they extend this payment. So they are penalizing themselves 2% by not paying that in 2022. So I think we're covered, Commissioner Marino. that they have until December 18th of 2023 to pay it, but they are paying a 2% per year finance charge on that extension. So they'll save themselves money if they've actually paid out by 2022.
Well, I don't,
So I don't see the
2%
need
on
for executive
$74,000
motion.
isn't a whole lot of money. So I'm not sure that that's any kind of motivator whatsoever.
And I'm going to interject here that, again, I think that what is bothering this body is that this is such a small ask compared to such a large project, that to put this off, and if this thing is going to fall apart, rather it should fall apart earlier than later, and us be sitting here in 2 years and having the same conversation. I'd rather get it over with quicker. Commissioner Sachs, you're recognized.
Thank you very much. It's my understanding that the folks that we're talking to now were not the original contractors for this facility. Is that correct, Mr. Pelowitz? I think we had a conversation about this a number of months ago.
Mr. Cross was a part of the original team. Horizon 880 was originally put together to produce an equestrian waste facility out on Old 880 in the Everglades agricultural area that ultimately was denied by the county due to concerns that the growers had out there regarding an equestrian waste composting facility in the area and about their ability to market their vegetables if they went to market with them. High Point is the assignee of the lease agreement for the authority. Mr. Cross was, I think, the principal for Horizon 880 was Bob Rogers. I think he was the one who was the principal, but the principal of High Point is Mr. Cross. So Mr. Cross was part of the Horizon deal, and he is continuing as part of this deal. So there is continuity there.
And if I could follow up with this, Mr. Pelowitz, because you and I had some conversation about this when it first hit our desks, and that is it a fact that this is a process that is a rather novel process for conversion of horse waste to, and then to produce clean shavings that is sold back to the equestrian community?
To my knowledge, it is, yes.
Okay. And the letter that is part of their proposal is a letter, and I'm really addressing this to Commissioner McKinley. Commissioner, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. You have, there's a letter that's attached to their proposal, June 29th, 2021, by U.S. Sugar, and it basically states support for the proposal as well, I would imagine, as for an extension of time as they have proposed, because of the support of the communities of Western Palm Beach County, which would be the equestrian community in your area, your district?
That letter of support was issued for multiple reasons, Commissioner Sachs. The first one, of course, was the relocation from the EAA to this site on Benoist Farms Road. The second issue, U.S. Sugar is working real hard to make sure that their processes are clean and environmentally friendly and not causing damage to nearby water sources. One of the practices they were doing was allowing the haulers to dump about 200,000 tons of equestrian waste onto one of their farm fields that was in close proximity to the L8 canal. They wrote a cease and desist letter to those haulers that they would no longer be accepting that. So they want to be part of the solution for the equestrian community since they can no longer accept that equestrian waste. So they are supportive of other projects that are trying to handle that instead. The bullet point in the letter that Mr. Cross submitted overnight related to U.S. Sugar, I believe that is a process that U.S. Sugar is looking at for some of their Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services goals under the BMAP process. So that's not really even a conversation for today. So a lot of different things are at play, and I hope that answers your question.
Well, my question really concerns two issues. One, this is a novel approach to the conversion of equestrian waste to something that is marketable, commercially marketable, because I would imagine from what they have set out is that this company wants to sell back to the equestrian communities a cleaned shavings for continued use, which is what we are looking for in terms of being able to recycle, especially something as novel as this. And secondly, it would certainly be environmentally safe according to these letters. So I would support a situation where that our colleague Commissioner McKinley has proposed, really based more on the idea that this is a novel recycling process. However, with regard to the financial situation of this company, I think that we may need to have some additional checks put out by the SWA and this board. So I would propose, and I'm not quite sure how to state it in a motion, but something whereby we would accept this today and pursuant to the motion made by Commissioner McKinley as amended, but that we would be able to revisit their financial status as the process goes through. Because the issue is not really whether the process is good or environmentally sound, or whether it's accepted by the communities surrounding it. The issue becomes one of finances. So I would accept the process as we discussed through the motions, and however, to add that we would make sure that we have checks, serious checks in line to monitor their financial status.
I'm not
Mr.
sure that's going to be
Chairman.
workable. Mr. Pelowitz, if we make a decision with respect to this payment, I'm not sure you would have the authority to do anything to this contract, even if you saw issues with respect to their financial condition, especially with a guarantor on the contract. Do you want to opine, or maybe our legal counsel wants to give us some guidance?
Well, I think you could put add a trigger to the motion that indicates that as of a certain time that they must demonstrate financing, and absent their ability to do that, that the lease payment immediately becomes due. That the deferred lease payment immediately becomes due. So I'd be looking, Mr. Cross has mentioned, and Mr. Mikowski, I think is his name, is the financing partner. So I think it would help me, or at least it would help me a little bit to have a letter or something from Mr. Mikowski indicating his intent that he is the financing partner and he does intend to finance the project once it's permitted. That would be helpful. Or a letter from a bonding company indicating an intent to issue a construction bond at a certain point, indicating that this project can move forward, because the bonding company is going to look at the finances, and if they're going to issue the bond, then you can be pretty sure, the way bonding companies are, that they've looked at the finances and they're confident in their ability and the ability of the team to complete the project. So I mean, I think there's options there for that. I think they could potentially be included here if it's the board's will.
So, Mr. Pelowitz, just to clarify, so that we can try and clean up this motion a little bit, you're looking for a letter of financial soundness, or how would you phrase that?
Well, I mean, ideally, I'd like to see a letter from a bonding company indicating an intent. Mr. Carey's got his hand up, so I'm going to let him answer on my behalf first.
Yeah, I'm looking at a letter here that was submitted with the RFP. It was dated 17th of December 2018. It's from Fitzgibbon Toigo and Company from New Jersey, and it says, I'm just going to read it here. Our review of your business plan for this project makes us believe it has potential to be a successful, profitable venture. FTCO, which is that company, is pleased to be the investment bank raising money on 500 Benowitz Farms Road, West Palm Beach, Florida, on behalf of Horizon 880 LLC. I don't know if anything has changed. Mr. Mikowski, is he a new financing partner, or has anything changed with this company here? So we don't have the details there.
Yes, again, he's indicated Mr. Mikowski is the financing partner. I think some assurance that the financing is in place, at least tentatively, for this project, just in the event that it's permitted, I think would go a long way. I also think that potentially a letter from a bonding company indicating an intent to bond the project. I mean, it's, when you get these letters in advance, it's not a commitment to issue a bond, but it does indicate that they have looked at the finances, and that would give us some assurance. So I think giving them the March date is in the motion to have the permitting in place. I think that's a protection. But I think additionally, by that date, I would certainly expect to see some indication that they have the ability to finance the project. So if that was the trigger date, I think that would make me more comfortable, if that makes the board more comfortable.
Commissioner Bernard, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So what's the date in March are we saying? Is there a March 31st, or do we have a specific date?
I'd have to go back to Commissioner McKinley's motion.
I think,
It's in the staff recommendation. It was just March of 2022. So that would be by March 31st.
Okay, so I know for me, I would prefer for it to be a bond letter versus a simple commitment letter, because that letter that you just read is really nothing. So, that doesn't mean that there's really true financing. That's just someone who wrote a letter, and it's got no value to us. So I'd prefer if we add a letter from a bonding company by March 31st, 2022.
Commissioner McKinley, would you accept that as a friendly amendment?
Yes, I'm fine with that, but I have a question for Dan.
Go for it.
Isn't the bond letter already required before they put a shovel in the ground?
Yes, that is correct. So they would be required to have the bond in place before they can put a shovel in the ground. So what this does is ensures that they can actually have the funding to put the shovel in the ground. We're deferring a lease payment, and I think the deferral means that we are intended to be paid as long as the lease is in force. And this is just a way of us ensuring that we do get paid the outstanding lease payment. They've indicated they're okay with paying interest on it, but indicating they're going to pay interest on the payment doesn't mean we're actually going to get paid in the end if this project doesn't move forward. That's my only concern, is just to make sure that that's there. If they're going to, once they get to full permit approval, they're going to need to move on to construction, and they're going to have to get the bond. And a letter of intent from a bonding company to issue indicates, I think, gives me reasonable assurance that the project is going to move forward and that we can expect to get paid on that lease payment in December of 2023, as has been indicated here or before.
I'm fine with that addition to the motion, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. And obviously, you realize that this whole conversation has been triggered by this request for a deferral. And we obviously are getting far afield of the specific issue of the payment, but obviously this has caused us a great deal of concern because, again, it's a small amount that you're asking to have deferred, but it is putting up all sorts of warning signals that we may be on a rocky road going forward, and that's why this whole conversation has ensued today. When we're done with the conversation, I think we're going to have to just make sure we have this motion tied down, and I'll look to the clerk to tell us what she has written and make sure that we have it exactly the way we want it before we vote on it. I'm going to now look to Commissioner Bernard. Did you have any further comments?
No, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to look to Vice Chair Weiss for comments.
I just want to say that this raises concerns to me that we're going to drag this out. I don't mind if there was a specific issue that could be really identified. I can understand. What sounds like to me is there's really been nothing has progressed since the site plan approval, and that the drawings weren't done, they weren't submitted, and I've not heard a good explanation as to why that couldn't have occurred. And adding on to this is to extend it out and basically tie this up for another couple of years. You know, it just seems, you know, at what point, you know, do we find out whether or not this is financially viable? And then to hear that there are other options potentially that are going to be made available. You know, it sounds like there are other people that want to enter into this market and see an opportunity, not necessarily utilizing that site or the need for that type of a facility, but nonetheless helping deal with this, of course, important issue of equestrian waste in our community. So it leaves me very uneasy, and I appreciate Commissioner Bernard's thoughtfulness in trying to tie it up a little tighter. And I guess this will be my last comment on it.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to ask the clerk to please read back the motion so we can all know exactly what we're voting on. And
Some of it.
Commissioner Weinroth, can I make one more comment before the clerk does that?
sure.
I think it's important to note, I certainly have a lot of respect for all of my colleagues, but Commissioner Weiss, you never supported this project in the first place because the city of West Palm Beach opposed it. So just want to make sure that we remembered that. The other thing, there's nobody who wants to resolve this equestrian waste problem more than I do, and there's nobody who is more reluctant to move this forward today, recognizing that it adds a little bit more of a delay. The protection that is in here in this motion, the most important protection that this board has is if they don't have their permits in hand in March, this is dead, and then we can put this back out for RFP to a new provider. That is the single most important protection that we have in this motion that we are moving forward today. They must have their permit in hand to put a shovel in the ground in March of 2022, which is less than 6 months from now, or this project is dead. So just wanted to reiterate that most important point.
Thank you, Commissioner
Madam
McKinley.
Clerk.
And I understand your concerns, and we certainly understand as the district commissioner for this area, your concerns about the overriding issue of the bedding being properly disposed of. So we understand that you're trying to balance the equities there. I see Commissioner Sachs, did you want to speak one more time?
Always given an opportunity to speak one more time, I'll take it. I absolutely agree with Commissioner McKinley. This is an issue that affects her district. It has support from the communities. We have to understand that the equestrian communities in Commissioner McKinley's area is very large and this has been an issue. This has been an environmental issue as well as a business issue for the continuation of a very profitable equestrian community in Commissioner McKinley's area. As I said before, this is a novel idea. It is not easy to get permits. Ask any business, any homeowner, how difficult it is, how long it takes to get permits. I think that we should understand it's a novel issue. It's an environmentally proper, really a novel issue for the conversion of horse waste to something that is marketable. And with the financial triggers that we have discussed and that Mr. Pelowitz has agreed that would be good to protect the county, then I think we need to move forward. Thank you, Commissioner McKinley, for helping to lighten us on how important this issue is to the district.
Thank you, Commissioner Sachs. I think this probably will pass by a 4-3, so the High Point should understand that we are deeply concerned that this board is deeply divided about whether even to allow you to continue, and certainly there'll be little patience for any further delays or lack of performance if this does pass. I'm now going to ask the clerk to read the motion so that we can all understand what we're voting on.
Okay. Motion to approve option 1, which is pay the lease payment of $74,600 for 2021 on or before December 18th, 2023. And it's condition of approval contingent upon High Point obtaining all permits by March of 2022. And there's a 2% finance charge to the 2023 lease payment.
Is
In
everybody
addition-
satisfied with that as a proper?
In addition,
Yeah.
we're to obtain a letter of commitment from a bonding company by March 31st, 2022.
Yeah, I just want to clarify the part of the motion that the interest is being applied to the December 2021 lease payment that is to be paid on or before December 18th, 2023.
Okay.
And is it 2% per year?
Yes, 2% per year.
Yes.
All right, I think we have the motion. I think we have beaten this horse to death. So, ooh, who
It's a
said
bad
that?
time.
That wasn't good.
All right, let's go ahead and call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right.
Do you want to just do a vote?
Let's do a voice vote just so we can get this right.
Vice Mayor Weinroth,
No.
Commissioner Weiss,
No.
Commissioner Sacks,
Yes.
Mayor Kerner,
Yay.
Commissioner Marino,
A reluctant yes.
Commissioner McKinley made the motion.
Yes.
And Commissioner Bernard.
Yes.
We have a
Okay,
4-3 vote.
I see it as a 5-2 vote in favor of the motion. Again, I call on High Point to recognize our concerns, and hopefully we are going to be successful at making this an operation that we're all going to be proud of. Thank you. Let's move on.
Thank you.
We move on to, I think, item 5D. Am I correct, Mr. Palowitz? Wait a minute. No, I'm off the consent, or I'm sorry.
91.
91.
9D1, I'm sorry. 9D1, we got on to some good stuff. We're going to give away some money today on the 2022 Blighted and Distressed Property Cleanup and Beautification Grant Award. Mr. Pelowitz, Mr. Archambault is going to make the presentation.
Yes, he is.
Okay, go for it.
Good morning, everyone. This is the 7th year for the Blighted Grant Program, made possible using funds from the Supplemental Waste Project. To date, the grant has provided $4.2 million to reduce blighted areas countywide. This year, you approved $750,000 for the grant program. We emailed the grant package to approximately 50 governmental entities and received 9 applications from 6 governmental agencies totaling $840,000. Staff reviewed the applications, and it's in staff's opinion, all projects meet the requirement except for 2 applications. The City of Green Acres submitted 3 applications. Staff believes 2 of the projects requesting lighting enhancements and furnishings for their municipal complex do not meet this requirement. The 7 applications that staff, in their opinion, did meet the grant requirements do exceed the available funds by $16,554. So this morning, staff would request the board identify the projects it wishes to fund and the amount to be funded. At this time, we're available to assist as requested, and we'll do our best to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and certainly we have 2 questions actually 3 points. Number 1, whether we accept the staff's recommendations with respect to projects 2 and 3 not meeting the criteria, and once we've made that decision, whether we want to approve an amount exceeding the budget and go ahead and ask staff to find the additional funds from another account, or whether we want to trim this down to our original budget. So I'm going to look for Commissioner McBernard for the first comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, I agree with staff in regards to the project 2 and 3 that does not meet the criteria, so I would remove those 2 projects. And so I would move that we accept the 7 applications and also to increase the amount of the funds by $16,554.02. And that would be the motion.
Second,
All right, I have a motion by Commissioner Bernard, and who was my second here?
I was.
Okay, Mayor Kerner, you're the second. Okay, let me see. Commissioner Marino, you're recognized.
Thank you. I have difficulty with number 4, which is the town of Loxahatchee Groves, which wants to do the improvements, and I understand their logic behind it. However, it's contingent upon them getting permitting from the county to do improvements in county right-of-way, which is a difficult proposition. I know that from several projects in the north end of the county, that just a simple sign for a community that they wanted to put it in a right-of-way, and the county has denied them over and over again. So I don't know how they are going to get approvals from the county to make these improvements in the right-of-way, so I would actually suggest that we remove item 4 from the discussion.
Are you making a substitute motion?
I will make a substitute motion that we remove item number 4.
Do I have a second to the substitute? I don't see a second. Okay. It's now Vice Chair Weiss's turn.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wonder if staff can opine on why you believe the 2 requests from the City of Green Acres do not comply with the program.
The program was designed for demolition, hauling, removing of structures, and making a better place for the community, such as a park, that type of blight. This seems to be more of, the city wanted extra lighting, furnishings. So it's just staff didn't feel that quite met the criteria. And it's highlighted in the grant exactly what we're looking for in the projects, and this just does not fit it.
Anything further?
I look at, what I understand what you're saying, but when I look at item number 3, and it's like the furnishings that would normally go into a park and so forth, and if it were benches, would we allow that versus bike racks?
This is all subject to the board on what you would like. The good news is Green Acres did submit 3, and it looks like they will get 1. But to answer your question, I think there's a standard. It was for litter abatement, clean up litter, and clean up blight.
Okay.
This just doesn't seem to fit that.
Understood. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner McKinley, you were recognized.
I don't have a question. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, very good. Then Mayor Kerner, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm delighted to join Commissioner Bernard in supporting his motion. I do think it's important that we maintain the purpose of this grant, which is blighted and distressed property cleanup. I certainly want to advocate for Green Acres in any way that I can, but it's pretty clear to me that based upon my review and the staff's due diligence, that applications 2 and 3 do not meet the criteria for this grant. Further, the additional $16,000 that is authorized by the pending motion amounts to about 0.02%. We have in the past, without issue, increased the amount of funds available to a slight degree to accommodate the application's full funding, and in that regard, that's what the motion contemplates, and I'm happy to support it.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Palowitz, would you have any problem finding the $16,500 if the board approved the full amount?
I will not.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Commissioner Bernard, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Perlowitz, in regards to item number 4, what happens if the town of Waxahachie Groves does not, if they're not able to get the approvals from the county?
We could place a condition in the interlocal agreement indicating that the grant is conditional upon them receiving the approval of the county, and that in the event that it is not, that the grant payments will not be made, basically. So we've done triggers before. We did it with the city of Boynton Beach once, where they were in the process of purchasing the property, but didn't obtain it yet, so we put a condition into the grant that conditioned the initial grant payment on them actually acquiring the property. So in this case, we could condition the first grant payment on their receiving approval to construct these in the right-of-way by the county.
Commissioner Bernard, do you want to go ahead and just add that to your motion?
Yes, Mr.
And
Chair.
Mayor, you'll?
Second.
Second, very good. Okay. Commissioner Marino, you're recognized.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Bernard, for asking that. That was my question, but I do have a follow-up to that. If the monies are then not distributed, what happens with those dollars?
They remain in the Solid Waste Authority budget. We could, if that happens sooner rather than later, we could put we could re-email the grant out to all the potential applicants in the county, and we could do a second round if the board wished to do that.
And would that replenish the 16,000 that we are going to be finding another place taking it from?
Sure, yes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, I'm going to look for a vote. I'm going to ask for Commissioner McKinley, since you're not here, to give us your yay or nay.
I support the motion on the table. Thank you.
Thank you. And for the rest of my colleagues, all in favor, all opposed? We'll show that it's approved 7-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, time to move on to 9E1.
Yes, 9E1 is the site license agreement for, excuse me, for Melgard US to process ash and recover metals. Just to give some background for this item, as the board knows, DEP approved a beneficial use of ash aggregates in concrete, asphalt, and road applications back in September 2019, and the authority successfully completed a project in fall of 2020. And DOT recently completed testing of concrete specimens and found that use of waste-to-energy ash aggregates in concrete is viable. It met all the strength specifications. And they're, in fact, in the process of issuing a new set of specifications for SWA. And in August 2021, we approached Covanta for processing ash, bottom ash, because the board approved a similar project as a pilot project back in 2019. It was a one-year project, but the financials were not favorable to the authority, so we decided not to pursue that. Instead, we accepted a proposal from Melgard for processing ash and recovering advanced metals. And there is a need for ash-derived aggregates for various projects within the county. So let's take a look at this process here. As you know, we process solid waste at both REF 1 and 2, about 1.8 million tons per year. And ash and metals are left over after the process. And what Melgard is proposing is to take 175,000 tons per year of bottom ash and process that and recover ferrous and non-ferrous metals and also ash-derived aggregates. So with ferrous and non-ferrous metals, they are going to sell it to markets, which would mean it's additional revenue for the authority, and the ash-derived aggregates would be diverted to beneficial use on various projects. And it preserves the landfill life and extends our capacity. So the proposal from Melgard is 175,000 tons per year of bottom ash processing from ash from REF 2 and REF 1 and REF 2. So we have two options here. Both options we'll be using here. The first one is to process using a generator, which is the initial phase of this project for a few months until we have permanent power to this facility, which is option number 2. So based on these two options, they have payments to SWA. Option 1, they would make payments of about $66,000 to $97,000 per month, which basically is using their power generator. And option 2, SWA would provide the power, and we would receive a revenue of $79,000 to $113,000 per month. And SWA is in the process of bidding this project to provide permanent power in the next few weeks. And hopefully by middle of next year, we will be providing permanent power to this project. So we're seeking board approval for an initial term of 1 year with an option to extend for 1 additional year. And again, the benefits to SWA, it's an additional source of revenue, and we recycle and reuse the materials, and it increases our recycling rate. Last year, we were at 74%, and this could provide a couple more points to that, and preserves the landfill capacity and extends our useful life of the landfill. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. As I understand it, if this is successful, we could actually go back into the landfill where we have segregated the ash for the last 10 years or so and be able to go and process that as well?
Yeah, mining is an option, it's pretty common outside Florida, and we can do the same. Again, it's the financials, how much, get.
Very good. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make a motion to authorize the executive director to finalize and execute a site license agreement with Melgard US as published.
I have a motion by the mayor, and I have a second by the vice chair. Do I have any other further discussion on this? Seeing no further discussion, all in favor? All opposed? Commissioner McKinley, are you a yay?
I'm a yay.
Thank you. We have a 7-0 for approval. Okay, let's move on to 9E2.
Yes, 9E2 is the sale of renewable energy credits, which is basically, in industry terminology, we call it RECs. So it's an accounting method for the environmental attributes or green attributes of renewable energy. Basically, 1 REC is awarded for each megawatt hour of renewable energy produced. It could be from solar, wind, hydropower, landfill gas, and waste energy. The authority's REFs produce renewable energy, but we're currently not registered with any entity. You have to register the RECs, and there are registries that can register and track the RECs. A couple of them I've listed here. It's the North American Renewables, that's one of the exchanges, and also MRETS, which is in the Midwest region of the country. And these RECs can be monetized depending on who needs them. There are voluntary commitments, and there are also compliance commitments for different entities. They want to purchase the RECs. There are consultants and intermediaries that can assist us in marketing these RECs. You can market the future RECs, but there are entities that would also take the RECs for the past 24 months, and we can monetize them. So depending on who needs these RECs, the time for these, it's usually within a week or 2 weeks. So it cannot be timed with the board meetings, and that's why we're here today. And there's a potential to generate tens of thousands of dollars in additional revenue. SW also has a power purchase agreement with FPNL, and staff will make sure that it's fully compliant with the FPLP power purchase agreements, because they have the right of first refusal to buy those green attributes. And we will report this back to the board.
So just to clarify, this is a way for a corporation to reduce its carbon footprint?
Correct.
Okay, very good. Any further discussion? Do I see a motion? I have a motion by Mayor Kerner, second by Commissioner Sachs. Seeing no further discussion, all in favor? All opposed? Commissioner McKinley, do I show you as a yea or a nay?
A yes.
Thank you. We have a 7-0 vote. Thank you. Okay, we're moving right along. We are now on to 9G, which is our financial management services. Mr. Mars.
Good morning to everyone. The subject today is to establish an auditor selection committee pursuant to the Florida Statute 218.391. Also, we are to appoint 6 audit selection committee members, including 1 alternate. So the procedure by which the audit selection committee has been established has changed with this new amendment. The statute as amended currently governs auditor selection procedures for all local governmental agencies in Florida. This statute requires that the Solid Waste Authority Board establish an auditor selection committee, which necessarily includes the appointment of its members. Pursuant to the statute, the auditor selection committee must consist of at least at least 3 members of the board, which also may be members of the board that the local government body who shall serve on this board as the chair. Pursuant to the statute, no employees of the Solid Waste Authority may formally serve on this committee, but they're permitted to serve the committee in an advisory capacity. The primary purpose of this is the Audit Selection Committee is to assist the board in the selection of the best auditor for conducting the required annual financial audit on behalf of this authority. Staff is providing the name of Commissioner Maria Marino as the chair of the committee, and we will be asking for 5 more additional individuals for potential committee members. And that includes one of the alternate board for consideration for appointment to establish its audit selection committee. Staff, we were working real hard to get some good people in here, and we believe that we vetted the people that we have here, and we believe that they will be able and qualified to serve on this committee. When establishing this committee, the board has the discretion to change the number of the potential committee members recommended by staff. Just looking at this, staff is looking to work with the committee and provide them with support. Any concerns or answers that you might need to questions, we will work with you and help you to make your decisions. Also, we're looking at potentially April of 2022 or July of 2022 of coming back to this board to present awarding a contract, and that will be after all of the work that this committee will have completed. So what we're requesting of the board is to approve appointing these 5 members. The 5 members, as I said, was Ms. Maria Moreno. We have Dr. Lori Vinecar. We have Katie Roundtree. She's a CPA with and she's a finance director with the North Palm Beach County Improvement District. Dorrit Miller and Mark Braun are from the county itself. Doris is the assistant county administrator. Mark Braun is the deputy manager for Palm Beach County Office of Finance, Management and Budget. And then John Gentithis from the SWA Citizen Advisory Committee. Also, Dr. Lori Vinecar serves on our Citizens Advisory Committee as the chair. So staff will request that the board establish this audit committee, selection committee, by appointing by the appointment of all 5 nominees, including the alternate member.
Thank you, Mr. Demart. I assume, Commissioner Marino, you agreed to accept this if the board goes in that direction. I'm just going to clarify with our counsel, this does not require Commissioner Marino to recuse herself, even though she's one of the appointees or potential appointees?
No, it does not.
Very good. I'm looking for a motion of what, before we take a motion, I have Commissioner Bernard is seeking his, wants to make a comment. Yes.
Mr. Chair, I was just going to make the motion,
Go for
which
it.
is to appoint the 6 audit selection committee members and 1 alternate.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Bernard, second by Commissioner Sacks. Mayor Kerner, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to clarify one point, well, 2 points. First, the motion is to contemplate having Commissioner Marino serve as the chair. Is that correct? All right, and then second, who is the alternate?
John Gentithis, he's a member of our Citizens Advisory Committee.
Very good. And then would the committee, it's sort of a special committee that, does it go away after the audit's done, or does it stay constituted in perpetuity?
I'm not sure. I think
That's really, it can go away after it's done. Under the statute, once you go through this process of selecting an auditor, if you stay with that auditor, you don't have to do it again.
Okay.
But this selection committee also, under the statute, has the ability to perform other functions if the board wants it to. It's
Right.
really the discretion of the board.
I think it's important that we clarify that here, and in fact, I think it was Commissioner Marino that brought to the board's attention, and we went through an exercise thereafter at the county commission about the amount of boards that we have and whether they're serving a specific purpose, and other issues related to attendance and quorum. So I don't really have a personal policy position on whether this should continue in perpetuity or not. I'm sure there are duties that this board could take up, but I think it's important as we constitute this board to have a vision as to whether it will exist in perpetuity or for this special purpose only. So I look to the maker of the motion. Or
Mr. Mayor, I would prefer that it could be disbanded after it's done its job, so now we don't add another committee.
All right, so Commissioner Bernard, your motion is going to contemplate its sunsetting upon the issuance of the audit report?
Yes.
Okay. Do I have, and you second that, Commissioner Sacks? Okay. All right. Next one up is Commissioner Marino.
And just to clarify that the purpose of this committee is going to be to evaluate criteria, scoring criteria, produce an RFP, and properly deliberate, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So yes, I'm happy with that. Thank you.
Commissioner McKinley, do you have any comments?
I have no comment.
Would you like to make a or a yay, or yes or no?
I vote in favor of my good colleague, Commissioner Bernard's motion.
Very good. Okay. To the rest of my colleagues, all in favor? All opposed? Show that as a round of applause and approval for our new chair, Commissioner Marino, and the rest of her members of the committee, and with the stipulation that this committee will sunset upon the issuance of the audit. Thank you very much, everybody. Okay. That seems to take us through the agenda. It's time for the authority staff to give us any comments they might have.
I just want to thank the board for sharing your time with us today and getting this business done. I'd also like to thank the staff for their excellent presentations, and also Brett and Lana and Art in the back of the room for making sure all of this works properly, along with the Channel 20 folks who make all this work. So thank you to all of you.
Thank you very much. Does our council have anything to offer?
No, sir, I do not.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Now it's time for comments by the board. Commissioner Sacks.
no comments.
No comment? She left. Okay. Mayor Kerner.
No comment.
Commissioner Marino. Commissioner McKinley.
Two quick comments. Number one, I want to thank you for the support for a difficult decision today. Number two, interesting conversation where I am right now and talking about energy. It's a conversation about how we're going to handle recycling car batteries in the future. So I would just like to ask the staff, maybe at a future meeting, give us a little bit of an update on the technology behind recycling car batteries and what SWA is planning to do to handle that.
We will do that.
Can I ask
Thank
you
you.
to expand that to also batteries in computers and other? I know we've had a lot of conversation about lithium batteries and the problems they've been having with those. So can you expand it past that?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Okay, is that all you had, Commissioner McKinley?
sir.
Okey doke. Commissioner Bernard.
No comments, Mr. Chair.
Vice Chair Weiss.
Just thank you to the staff for doing an excellent job, and you guys are always there, and the trash gets picked up, and really appreciate it.
Thank you. And my final comments, this is probably my last meeting as chair, unless my colleagues see otherwise. But I thank you very much for the support by the staff here and make it very easy to chair these meetings. And I learned a little something today. I didn't know Dorit was a CPA. So that was a little bit of extra information. I thank you all for being here today. We are going to have our next meeting, which will be a special meeting. That will be November 16th. It will be at the Palm Beach County Government Center in the chamber. It will occur right after the County Commission reorganizes, and that will be at 9:30 a.m. again in West Palm Beach. And thereafter, there will be a regular meeting on December 8th at 9 a.m. right here. And I thank everybody for your attention, and we are adjourned.